Hello and welcome to an unexpected podcast. My name is Tim, and with me as always, we have Matt, Mick, Rainier, and Devin. On this week's list, we're going to be going over a list by Robert Snook, and then we're going to be going on to the main topic for today, which is the scenario retrieval, where we're going to be going over basically what we think of it, how we would build a list, and then every single one of us has built a list for retrieval. But we'll move over to the review of Robert's list first. So I will move that
Actually,
over to
before
Devin.
we do, we have to put out a bit of an apology to Camille Spronzel, who was one of the lists that we reviewed in the Lister List episode a couple of weeks ago, where he was the one who had the Gondor list with, I believe it was Boromir, Ingold, Baragon, and 2 trebuchets, and we have a lot of advice on that list. And after the episode aired, he said, "Oh, by the way, guys, I already took this list to a tournament and I won it." So it's good to know that our list was both our list advice was both unhelpful and untimely. So sorry about that, Camille.
Yeah. I always find it interesting, especially when you do list reviews. You also have to take into account certain factors we can't take into account, which is like the meta in your local area, your terrain that you're playing by, certain, different times, restrictions, whatnot that each tournament has, even how you guys all play in that area. So those are things, of course, when we take into account our list advice, it's kind of based on the meta universally. So I don't know, may have been a factor, or maybe it was just an awesome list we totally missed.
You also need to take into account when you're listening to our advice that we are really just a group of idiots who play with toy soldiers. So, take it for what it's worth.
Except for Rainier, he's a masters at Articon.
Do us a favor though. Leave us.
No. I push models and throw dice. That's all I do.
Do us a favor though. Leave how many people were in the tournament and how many rounds there were, and how you did overall.
About all that information.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how many rounds and people were at the tournament, so we can kind of see what kind of tournament it was.
And describe the terrain as well.
And what scenarios you played as well.
Yeah, scenarios. That'd be really good to know.
Because that's another key factor.
And what you rolled to hit with each trebuchet shot.
Yeah. I hope you counted every single shot that you rolled. Every single one. I want to see that.
These are important metrics.
Okay. We'll move on to the main list for today, though, by Robert Snook. So I will move that over to Devin.
All right. So today we have a rare Easterling list. Love it. And it's 500 points. So we're doing a much smaller one. However, he is asking for a little bit of advice to take it up to 800 points. So we'll throw in some factors for that. But analyzing it purely as a 500 point list, we have Camul and Fell Beast. He's got a Cataphract with a drum, and then 7 Easterling Warriors with shield and 7 Easterling Warriors with shield and pike. So he's not making your traditional phalanx here. Then he has an Easterling Captain with glaive, and then 6 Easterling Warriors with shield, 5 Easterling Warriors with shield and pike, and then 1 with a banner and pike. So that comes up to 494 points with 29 models, 4 might, and 0 bows. He's never been impressed by Easterling shooting. I haven't either, so I agree with that. He wanted to bring plenty of D6 warriors to outlast while Kumul gets his combat job done and the army can move fast with a drum. So on the initial, just kind of reading this for a 500-point list, once again, like we mentioned for the previous review, we're just kind of going into an overall meta and thoughts and, nothing specific about this tournament. I do like the fact that you didn't go for basically your ranks of being like 3 ranks deep. You look very clearly like you're doing only 2 ranks deep. I don't think you have enough models to actually do the traditional 3 ranks. So the phalanx rule that you have is more of a gimmick that you can use when you want to, but not necessarily what you're going for. Camul and Fell Beast at 500 points, I think it's going to be pretty terrifying as long as the opponent doesn't have anything to counter him. But otherwise, I mean, with 29 models, all at D6 at 500 points, I actually think you have a solid model count. You have 4 points of might, but it's realistically just 2. Camul's probably going to spend his might not on heroic moves, but luckily you did pick just a generic captain for that. I'm going to have to give some thought into how I might improve this to 800, but meanwhile, I'll just see what the other guys think as far as as it is right now. I mean, it's a little tough for me to judge based on just simply 500 points. right off the cuff, but what do you guys think? Anything specific you would
I
say?
think the one thing that pops out is try to use that extra 6
Yeah.
points.
Yep.
Oh,
Like
yeah, there's
never,
that.
especially at 500
Well-
points. Don't leave any point.
And it's
unspent.
easy in this list because all you need to do is spend
Give pikes.
You spend 2
Or three
points
black
to
dragon
upgrade.
tons.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
You
black
spend 2 points
dragons.
to upgrade the cataphractic drum to black dragon, and then you spend 2 points to upgrade 1 shield and pike in each of your warbands to black dragon.
Yeah.
That's the 6 points. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was kind of nagging at me as I saw that. It's like
I think that seems to be everyone's general point is to get those
Let's do
6
this.
points.
The 6 points definitely. Yeah, that's a lot of points to leave on the table. Like that's not like the traditional 1 or 2. So
That's
yeah,
like-
I mean,
That's like one model for most armies.
yeah, exactly. That's a lot of points to leave out. So
I think it's 1 point off of a base model for Easterlings as well. So
Yeah, but he's sadly on the cap now, so he's not able to take any more models.
okay, gotcha.
I would be curious if you guys, do you think that Kamul fits a better purpose than Amdur does in this type of list?
Well, so I was actually thinking
Hard to say.
personally, I would potentially change to Amdur, just because at fight 6, he's potentially gonna last longer than Kamul, and he's still a massive hero. He's gonna be raking through most of the things at 500 points. And by dropping Kamul into Amdur, you're saving about 25, I believe. Yeah, that's right. So you'd be able
Potentially
to take
more for the banner.
Yeah, you don't need the banner.
You don't need the
Well,
banner
yeah,
anymore. with
that's
Amdur.
right as well. Yeah. So then you can actually take up some cataphracts and give a horse to the captain as well.
Which would make him more of a unit that does more than just simply
Yeah.
call heroic moves. And you get more might in the list too, technically.
You do
Not
get
only,
one more might point. Yeah,
well,
You
not
got-
just one more, but blood and glory.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I agree that I think at 500 points, Kamul I think is the way to go. I'm sorry, not Kamul. Amdur I think is the way to go. But I mean, with that said, yeah, Kamul on Fellbeast is pretty scary at 500 points. So I don't think this is necessarily a bad way to do it here. If you're like, I really like my Fellbeast and I really like my magic, I think this is fine. I think the Amdur version is probably a little more points efficient.
I have personally come up against an Easterling list at 500 points multiple times when playing. And Kamul has been so integral to that list every single time I've played against it. Now, the person I played against had a third bows, but obviously, like you said, the bows aren't that great. So this, I think, is actually better. And plus, with the drum, they move in 9 inches. But Kamul is just such an annoyance at 500 points where if he needs to use a tiny bit of magic, then he can do that. And then he can regain all of his wounds that quickly. But a hurl at 500 points, or
You mean will, not
He
wounds,
means
right?
will, yeah.
oh, I apologize, Will.
Yeah.
The ability to regain the will very easily, because at 500 points, there's not a lot you have to worry about. So he's just, killing 2 guys, getting his will back, killing 2 guys, getting his will back. And, a hurl in a good position at 500 points can be everything. I'm a fan of Kamul on Fellbeast personally, but I know that Amdur Amdur is a great hero for this list at 500 points because he's cheaper. He's already fight 6. He comes with an Elven Blade. He has a banner effect with him. I like Amdur a lot, but just after playing against Kamul at 500 lists so many times, he is so good.
I'd actually have to agree with Tim too. I love Amdur and I play him in many of my lists, but I think Amdur, you need somebody to cover him, just because he is kind of a little squishy with one fate d6.
Mm-hmm.
You can mitigate him too in a 500 port, because most likely your opponent's gonna carry another heavy hitter. But Kamul on Fellbeast can cover anywhere in the battlefield. Like you said, hurls. He can take out munch troops. If the mega hero is on one side of the battlefield, you can go on the other side and fight to ignore the hero. I like Kamul on Fellbeast.
Yeah, the only downside about Kamul, because I've played Easterlings a bit at lower points levels. I usually play them at 6, but 600 is because of the 2 fight and because of the 2 might and because of the low might in this list. Kamul can be a bit vulnerable because that 2 might ends up disappearing quickly, especially if he botches a combat, which he can do. Because he's not the Witch King with Mortal Crown. When he charges, he's only got 3 dice, and especially if he's someplace where he's not near that banner. Which, by the way, you want to put the banner in Kamul's warband if you're running it this way, because you really need that banner to be near Kamul to give him that extra die, and he can run out of might quickly. And once he runs out of might, he can go down. And Amder is just a little more resilient because of those free heroic strikes and the fact that he self banners. But which doesn't mean that you can't do it this way. I mean, I would say that once you get up much higher than this, you want both Kamul and Amder in the list. I think my 600-point Easterling list is Kamul in a warband and Amder in a warband. And I think that's the way to run it when you get a little higher.
You lose March complete. Oh, well, I guess you have the drum anyway.
You have the drum. You don't care.
Yep. Actually, based on that alone, the Easterling captain's kind of like, I understand the purpose of him in this list is to have 2 points of might, but I think at higher points, you start to just abandon them completely, and they're not really all that relevant. I think just to follow up with Matt's argument, I think that Kamul will be highly vulnerable with that 2 points of might as well, especially if you're trying to charge. Once you charge Kamul, he's not scary, even on Fellbeast, and I think you're going to be facing pressure every single turn to charge. And if Kamul ever ends up out of range of that Easterling captain, then his might will disappear. And I'm not saying he'll get overwhelmed in combat or anything like that, but if he's ever in a bad position, then I would worry that 2 might in your army to keep him going with heroic moves is 2 might, by the way, I'm talking about from the Easterling captain. I mean, because that's what I'm assuming the might is there for. It is literally to follow. Because Kamul is the list. I mean, outside of Kamul, this list isn't harming anything.
Yeah, I get that too, because even what's his face Amder has a fight 6 Elven Blade with free heroic strikes if someone strikes against him. So that makes a lot of sense actually.
Well, let me ask you this. So if you go with Amder on horse, you're having an extra 25 points in a list that can't add any more models. Are you just doing Black Dragon upgrades with those points?
Well, no, you can add more. Wait, so actually, sorry.
You wouldn't be able to add any more.
You can't add anything.
I'd add more.
So what are you doing with those 25 points?
Well, it's not just 25. You could probably delete the banner and pike, which I understand there's a lot of missions out there that require banners. I think at 500 you're probably a lot more safe. But I mean,
if you got rid of the banner, then you're yes, you have 50 points, but that's just enough for one more captain. So then you're just adding more might to this list, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but you're just adding might for 50 points. Or you could have Kamul in a banner.
No, because you're getting a horse for the captain anyway. So that's your plan. You're upgrading some to Black Dragons. You might want 1 or 2 extra cataphracts. So there are things you can do.
Well, what Tim's saying though is you wouldn't have the points anymore for that captain, but also you can't do that. You can't add the cataphracts because we have no more room in the warband.
I mean, you're actually upgrading normal warriors into cataphracts at like 6 points each.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
I mean, the thing is because of at 500 points, you can't really get a 3rd warband. That's the main issue here with Easterlings. At 600, you'd be able to. So there's potentially a question of do you want Dragon Knights, because if you're able to take 2 of them, then essentially that'd be the same as an Easterling captain in terms of bringing models.
Here's an interesting thought. Well, I was wondering if you downgrade the Fellbeast, but I'm not sure you want to downgrade the Fellbeast on Kamul, because if you downgrade the Fellbeast, then you could get Kamul and Amder. But I'm not sure Kamul not on a Fellbeast.
Is Amder that cheap?
Amder's 145 on horse.
But the captain blade,
you'd replace the captain with basically you downgrade Kamul to
40
but you get 40 points.
Yeah, 40.
And then so you'd have 40 plus the captain's 45-ish, 50.
You take away the banner, 25, so 65.
Okay, so then
now you're still at quite.
You're like 35 points.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, you can't do it.
There's not an option. Like if you change Kamul into Amder, that gives you 25. You then remove the banner, that gives you 50. Then you change your Easterling captain
to Did you say the
Or-
banner was 15?
No.
No, 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Plus
deem
the
it-
cost of the Easterling.
Well, so 34.
Yeah.
You'd be able to potentially get 2 Dragon Knights mounted instead of the captain if you wanted to have more of a punch. Maybe lose another model.
But
Well,
then you
no,
lose the
yeah.
banner completely.
Wait. Are the Dragon Knights replacing the Warband? Like,
Well,
so
no,
they're you're getting rid of the captain plus the.
Well, no. You're getting rid of the captain and taking 2 Dragon Knights instead through the
Well,
points
that-
that you save
any-
on Amdur. and
Any
Divine.
warband that the Dragon Knight leads have to be black dragons in them. So you have to upgrade the warriors.
Now
as
the
well.
whole
Oh, they
warband just
ought to
got
be.
costlier.
Yeah, they have. So you have to
Yeah.
increase the cost of your warriors as well.
So
I mean,
realistically-
they're
other
they're
thing you
pretty
could
shite.
do-
They're pretty useless.
I mean, the other thing you could do is you could go Amdur, and then you could get, with the points that you save off the banner and downgrading to Amdur, you could get another Easterling captain. I'm not sure, but you could get another Easterling captain. You may be able to get another warrior or 2, and then just divide the warriors in 3. So you've got
But
basically
you're
packages.
downgrading the Fellbeast to get another captain.
No. You're replacing Kumul with Amdur. You're
Yeah.
dropping.
Gotcha.
the banner.
Okay.
So
And taking
is there any
those
merit to the
points
War
to
Priest, by the way?
well, so that's
not
what
at
I was
this
going
point, not at this point level.
So if the captain's not mounted, there might becomes a lot less relevant if Kamul is downgraded to Amdur, because Amdur doesn't need the heroic move off roll off as much as the Fellbeast. So I think that having 2 captains with Amdur probably is less valuable. Like, I'm not sure what
The
second captain
captains
really
are actually the foot captains actually have a role in this, sitting at the front of basically sitting at the front of a little pike phalanx block. I've used them that way before, and they're actually pretty effective at kind of chewing through infantry, because you end up with 2 attacks from the captain and then 2 attacks from the guys behind. So you've got like a file that has 4 dice, and then when you win, especially you got 2 strength 4 attacks, perhaps strength 5 if he's going to pierce with that hand and a half axe. So they actually do give some punch to these phalanxes if you sit them in front. So they're not necessarily a bad choice.
So out of the choice, because it seems to be that the choices are keep the list the way it is, but use the 6 points, or downgrade Kamul to Amdur on horse and get rid of the banner and then add a captain. Which of those sounds best?
I have to change my thought. I do think Amdur really is the better choice in this list. I mean, for a lot of the reasons I mentioned, but I think for the fear factor of having a Fellbeast at 500 points plus, we're not. I mean, I understand. I agree with Matt saying, the punching power of a captain added into the front of the phalanx. So now you have kind of 2 other little minor threats kind of sprinkled into your force. And I've done the same with Uruk-hai captains, which I rate highly for the 5/5 strength 5. But I think if it's a lot more of a precision instrument at this point, but if you play this Kamul list, if played correctly, and you have to have your banner and your captain always close to the Fellbeast, which is, I think it's a very, very high variance, high risk kind of list, then this list has the potential to be stronger. But you definitely have to play this correctly, because you're going to be called heroic moves all the time, and you're going to be constantly threatened on that Fellbeast, because once it's gone, it's done. But I would say if you have the skill level for it, then the Kamul list probably is stronger. But I think the Amdur list allows you to make a lot more mistakes and still stay in the game.
Yeah, I have to agree with Devin. I think if you're a more advanced player, you keep Kamul. If you can't, it's much more safe to downgrade to Amdur and get a captain in there, so you have 7 points of might, and you can really start to do some damage at that point. Any other thoughts?
Well, we should talk about getting this up to 800, because he did ask about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I guess very minorly some due to time, but I suppose I mean, really, Matt touched on it already, bringing it up to Amdur, add him. And there's not a whole lot you can do to an Easterling list.
Yeah, so
I think you can add con to it, and if you listen a little later for our episode, you'll see. a Khan Easterling list, but I like the idea of Khan and Easterlings at 800 a lot. I think it balances out the heavy hitting power because you can get cheap fight 5 basic little monsters on chariots for like 85 points.
I'm complete agreement with that. I mean, honestly, Easterlings after like 700 points, there's nothing you're missing out on that you absolutely need unless you want to do something absurd. But get an Easterling War Priest maybe. But I would just for the Fury, obviously. But yeah, then after that, start adding Khan. Like one Khan chariot, it actually can do a lot. Like as even a fear fact. So I agree with. I'm sorry, Rainier.
Yeah, I think the order of operations is first you get Amdur, and then once you've got Amdur and you've kind of bulked out both of their war bands, then your options are one. Dragon Knight and some Black Dragon cataphracts, or 2 Captain and more guys, or 3 War Priest and more guys, or 4 get an ally like that. And I do agree that the Khandish chariots are a good add-on to this.
Very specifically, the king or chieftain. We're talking about them, not the little chariots. So
well, I mean, you have to get a king or chieftain to.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I'm hoping what I don't want him to do is be like, well, they told me I really need the chariots. So like he gets a captain and then has like a bunch of actual chariots.
He has a chieftain on a horse and then a bunch of chariots.
Yeah,
that's not what we're talking about.
No, you put the might on the machine, basically.
but yeah, I mean, the first step with the Easterlings is I think once you go to 600 points, you've got Kamul and Amdur in the list. And then after that, it's like, what else do I put into this thing?
Actually, in this type of list with Easterlings already having Amdur, I think, and Rainier can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 2 chieftains on chariot will net you far more than a king on a chariot. It's more points, but I'm just saying, like, just to get.
But it doubles the might, doubles the chariot impact hits and stuff, and
I think you could fit it at 800.
One last pump for Easterling bows, because I never used to bring them either, and then I started bringing 2 or 3. And you got to remember they still shoot into combat. And we actually, when we were doing Pelennor Fields, the Easterling contingent that we were using had 4 bows running around in it. I think the scenario calls for more, but we had replaced some of them with pikes. And these 4 bows were just like kind of running around, half moving, plinking, and not hitting anything until one turn when one of them shot into a combat of Imrahil against, I believe it was the Khandish chieftain, and managed to shoot out Imrahil's horse from under him. So every once in a while, 1 or 2 of these bows will come through, and especially if you have 800 points, having a few bows in there that can just kind of hang out in some positions, kind of back behind the lines and shoot into combat, may actually be, especially if they're like sitting on an objective or something and accomplishing something else, may be something to spend a point or 2 on.
You have 6 points left over. Why not?
Yeah, upgrade. Yeah, get some bows in there. I think our general consensus, though, Robert, is to either downgrade to Amdur to be safer, or if you feel like you're a very skilled player, go with Kamul because he has a lot more higher level because of the ability to be on a fell beast. But let us know what you think of our thoughts. Leave those in the comment section below. And if you end up trying out the list, let us know how you do with it. We're going to move on to the main topic for today, which is the scenario Retrieval. So
otherwise known as capture the flag.
Yep, capture the flag. Dang it, Matt! I was going to get in. Shoot, you took it from me. Oh, that was my first. Oh, shoot. All right. We'll go over the rules real quick. So basically, you're going to be dividing the board in half diagonally, and there's going to be a relic 15 inches from the corner, from opposite corners, and so you'll put them there, and then there'll be a line in the middle, and you cannot deploy your army within 3 inches of the middle of your side. So you have to be 3 inches further than the middle when you're deploying, and you're going to alternate warbands when doing so. The game will end on a 1 or a 2 after 50%, and the scoring points for this are 1 point if your opponent's relic has moved to its original position, at the end of the game, or from its original position at the end of the game. If you've retrieved your opponent's relic, you instead score 3 victory points. If you have retrieved your opponent's relic and the model holding it is in your deployment zone, you score 5. If you've retrieved your opponent's relic and managed to move it off the board via either of the board edges, so you can move it on whichever board edge on your half, you get 7 victory points. You score 1 victory point for causing 1 or more wounds, 2 for killing the enemy leader, and you get 1 victory point for breaking them at the end of the game. If you break them and are unbroken, you get 3 victory points. And then the special rule is the relic. Each relic is a light object. A relic is considered to have been retrieved if at the end of the game it has been carried by a friendly model. If a relic has been picked up by an enemy model and is then subsequently dropped or retaken by a friendly model, then a player must try to return it to its original position as quickly as possible until it has been picked up by an enemy model. Friendly models may not pick up their own relic. So, Matt took my intro to this, which was capture the flag, but what are your guys' thoughts on this scenario?
Capture the flag.
Yeah. I go into scenarios like this. I often try to figure out, 2 things of noting. One, it's very possible to tie on this, sort of like Fog of War. So that's something that I think you'll see more often, because generally in these scenarios, whoever's accomplishing the mission, you can't tie with them very easily unless you get all the secondary objectives. But in this one, it's giving you both points for, you can both grab the relic and have it, and then you'll both get 3. So you can tie pretty easily here. And number 2, it's also extremely possible to win without accomplishing the mission objective, because the 7.1 is so hard to achieve. Note that you have to go get the relic and then bring it back to your deployment zone in a 2-hour time limit. That can be pretty tricky to do unless you're just mowing your opponent down, which I think Rainier is going to go for later.
No, it's like a spicy storm the camp, basically, which most of us, whenever we play, we tie. Sorry, Tim.
No, sorry, I apologize. Not only do you have to get it to your side of the board, you have to walk it off one of your board edges. So
exactly. You have to, and obviously you're probably going to go toward the edges where that dividing diagonal is splitting. But to do this, I mean, it's just like Rainier just said, it's storm the camp, but now you have to go back. And so good luck accomplishing that final objective without eagles. So I think I would strongly consider trying to win this scenario without achieving the main mission. Maybe you grab it, maybe you move it, but I don't think you should probably worry about, unless you see an awesome opportunity, I don't think your mission and goal should be to bring it back at the maximum VPs. That's my initial thoughts on it.
Well, yeah, but your goal should be to get somebody on the relic, right?
Yeah, certainly don't abandon it.
Yeah, I mean, because it is possible, especially if you've got cavalry, to at least get it back to your half of the field, which nets you 5 victory points. And I mean, the other thing is, if you're playing a slow and cagey game, where it looks like, kind of neither side is going to break, you could win this scenario just by grabbing the relic. If you can just get a guy in contact with the relic and get that 3 points, that's, unless you're being broken in order to do that, that's all you need to win that game. So you really have to, I mean, there's 2 prongs to thinking here. You have to come up with a plan to get to the relic and then you also need to come up with a second plan to keep the other guy from getting to your relic. Because if you're in, a rugby scrum and nobody's going to break the other guy before time's exhausted, if that guy manages to get to your relic and pick it up, at that point, he's got 3 points or at least 1 point, even if you manage to get it back from him, and that could cost you the game. So you can't kind of abandon your relic when you do it. You have to really think in both directions on this.
Yeah, I have seen, if you have like a heavy shooting army, I have seen people kind of castle, but send out scouting forces. I know you did this when you played against me, Devin. You sent your cav out as diversions, but you still blocked away and stormed the camp to where potentially you break the opponent and the game ends before they even like have an option to pick it up, but also they're like defending It's a good strategy. I mean, whenever I come against Storm the Camp, or if I would come against this, I would probably shoot for a minor victory. Anything else is like a little too risky, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's entirely too risky to go for full VPs here. I think
that's way too risky.
and just to clarify on a statement, I don't think I would abandon my objective so much as not make it a priority to go for yours. I think my priority in this mission personally is to break and kill your general, break your army, kill your general. And then if I have an opportunity to go for the mission objective, probably in the last hour of it, as I'm like trying to demolish your actual army, then sure, I'll go for it. I mean, I'm not going to say, skip it, but I think ultimately if I see the potential is, let's say you're doing the strategy that I think most players who begin this will do, which is you're leaving some of your force back and some of it going forward. Well, then the scenario just naturally piecemeals the person. And if I can at least create the threat or illusion that I'm going for that objective, sort of like doing what Rainier said, which is 2 cavalry out, whatnot, then you'll be, not you, Matt, but like a player would probably likely be more likely to keep at least a sizable portion. Let's say if I keep 12 models back with my 2 cavalry, that's a win for me, because then the rest of my army is just going to clobber what you've sent at me. And I don't know, that's kind of, I think, the approach I might go with it. I could be wrong. I've never actually played the scenario before.
The problem comes if both players use that approach, right?
Yeah.
So if both players use that approach, you draw.
Yeah.
And
unless we beat the shit out of each other.
Which well, no, you don't, because both sides kind of stay back toward their relic and you never come to grips. In order for you to come to grips, one guy has to say, all right, I'm gonna make a run at this. And to a certain extent, it kind of depends how credible your threat to my relic is, because if you're just sending a couple guys that I can shoot down or tag with a hero on my way in, if you leave too many guys back to protect your relic, you almost kind of like surrender the initiative in this game to the other guy, who, if he can come in and maybe get into contact with that relic after a heroic combat or with a flyer or something like that, that's enough to win the game right there. Even if you've kind of stayed back and set up the perfect castle, if you make one mistake or lose one combat that leads to a heroic combat where somebody gets in on the relic, you can lose. I mean, you can lose the game on the last turn just from that.
And I agree with. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to point out that to score 1 VP for the relic, all you have to do is just move it. So if you simply walk over, pick it up, move another inch, and then your guy dies, you still score a point.
Yeah. And I agree. Obviously, like certain variances like flyers, or I actually threw out a couple that I didn't do a list for today, but if you have like a Mummakill, or if you have like certain things like a Watcher or whatever, then this is going to throw in certain wrenches that I can't, castle and such for. I guess when thinking of this, I was just thinking of a traditional army that kind of foot slogs, and not to say that they couldn't achieve the same thing. They probably could with heroic combats and such. And like I said, I don't know that you don't go for your opponent's objective. I just think my focus, it's sort of like domination. So when I play domination, I actually do not go for the mission objective at all. I actually start off for the first about hour. I time it where I'm just out to beat your army to death. And then once an hour hits, I start calculating how long would it take for me to get a couple models back to these certain objectives and clear yours off. And generally on that mission, I only pick 3 of the 5. And I'm like, I just want 3 of these 5 scenarios. So I kind of go through the same thing. I would start off just trying to destroy your army, understanding, yes, if you have flyers or an immense amount of cav, then I have to play differently, because if I'm too aggressive, then you'll get around me, and then that'll be the end of that. Like, you'll move the objective and potentially even get it into your deployment zone. So, definitely play different. But I just think my strategy going in is I would try to destroy your army as much as possible. I guess there is that little factor that Mick mentioned. If you just move the objective, what do you do? You definitely can't let it go too far, because otherwise you're definitely going to concede 1 point regardless.
Yeah, I mean, if you get it near the end of the game and you don't manage to kill the guy, you've conceded 3 points. I mean, another thing to keep in mind here for those who haven't played this scenario is this is, I think, unique in that it has the diagonal deployment zones. which, somebody who's a little closer to high school geometry can refresh my memory on this. I mean, it is a bigger front line than you're used to when you play this scenario.
Yeah.
So you can, especially if you do have armies that are mobile, you can start forces, kind of way out on one flank and kind of come in from different directions. Obviously, they all have to converge on the relic. So if you're going to castle, you castle around the relic. But it can be hard for particularly a slow army to come to grips with their opponent if their opponent is kind of deploying in a cagey way, like not near the center, and is trying to scoot. There's a lot of frontage where you can scoot around somebody's kind of block of troops in the middle of the board, and there's more of that than there is in a standard deployment when you've got a 4-foot wide table.
Yeah, there's going to be over 60 inches of a deployment line there.
Yeah,
there's somebody with math.
There you go. Actually, I was going to ask if anyone could do that calculation.
well, the diagonal is 67.8, so minus the 3 inches.
Yeah, that's a lot of room
you have
to
to be
work
away
with.
from it. So like somewhere over 60.
Yep. So this ends up being a lot more of a maneuver game than you would think based on. Unlike Storm the Camp, where people tend to go in the straight line from point A to point B, because you start up to halfway across already, you don't have to worry quite as much about I just need to get to the other side. And you can start way out to one flank or the other and kind of come at the relic from different angles.
Yeah, the other thing which actually makes it different to Storm the Camp is that you actually deploy pretty much on the almost on the halfway line. You're just gonna be 6 inches away. Because the issue
I think it's 3 inches.
Well,
right?
three inches from the halfway line on your side, and then 3 inches from the halfway line on their side.
Oh, so you're saying the armies are 6 inches away?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Whilst in Storm the Camp, what was it, like 12 inches deploying, or even 18? Like
you deploy 12 inches in, so you were a ways away.
It then takes you like 45 minutes to actually get to the middle in the first place. So here at least you start in the middle. There is time to do your objective.
They learn from their mistakes.
Yeah. Well, and that's
in Storm the Camp, there is no time for anything.
Yeah. That's what gives you the luxury of being able to start a force like way out on the flank and still have a chance to get to the relic because you start a good portion of the way across the board to begin with.
I guess that makes it where you could still do a gun line in the sense that I don't know how much distance you have because the board's in a diagonal now, but like if you wanted to sit back, let's say you're playing a Corsair force and you wanted to do my strategy, which is just focus on obliteration, or you have, the tournament winning, double trebuchet list, then I guess you can, you could pretty much try to shoot someone down, but how much time would you have? Like, I'm trying to think, if you were moving toward me, would that be just 2 turns of shooting? You think?
Probably just 2 at the most, actually, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well,
So with Heroic March or a Drum.
Well, you can deploy anywhere within your deployment zone, so you could deploy back if you wanted to.
Yeah,
Or just-
But
or
the
just run
relic's
back.
the only
kinda
problem is the
deploy
relic
from
is
the-
15 inches forward from the corner, so you have to be.
How far away is it from the the board middle?
It's farther than I'll let Mick do the math, but it's farther than it looks.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, how much time I have to shoot. Because if I have 3 turns of shooting available to me, that might be a route I'd be okay with if I have an overwhelmingly shooting army.
So it's 68 inches the diagonal, which gives you 34 to get to the middle from your corner, minus the 3 for deployment. So let's say
37.
37.
So divide that by 9, I guess, because of Heroic March.
Yeah. So potentially you would be able to get four turns of shooting if your opponent's
Wow.
Okay, all right,
Really?
But
'cause
shooting's only 24 inches.
Yeah, well,
That's the problem too.
No,
you can
that's
move
right.
back and shoot to,
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Plus actually, it's 37 minus 15 because
It's actually
Yeah.
20.
because you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 22 inches to the relic.
Yes,
Yeah.
22 inches.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
right,
wait a
yeah.
minute, that seems like way
So-
too much.
So it's like it's
Yes, it's
three,
like 2.5
three,
turns. 2.5
Yeah.
turns.
Yeah.
two,
it's-
2.5,
it's-
3 turns.
So 2.5, 3, that's still 3 rounds of shooting. Well, no, that's 2 rounds of
So
shooting.
3 turns no matter what. 3 turns no matter what.
Yeah.
So
The downside is that if you're keeping your guys back around the relic to shoot from there, it's very easy for your opponent just to hover outside of 2 feet because there's plenty of board depth to do that. And, as soon as you move forward, then, on a turn that you move forward, then, he's going to move forward and he can close that range quicker, or he can just, sit there and stare at you, which is
I would shoot at
kind
them.
of the downside. I mean, if you've got 2 trebuchets, this isn't a problem. But
so another like elephant in the room that we had discussed in the chat before this episode is Tom Bombadil. Normally in most games he can't interact with the objective, and he still can't in this one, but nothing prevents him from standing on it.
I was just going to say you could keep people away from
And so he's never played, and I still don't rate Tom Bombadil as a competitive model, but just an interesting note that theoretically, unless you call a judge and the judge overrules the action, he can deny you the ability to even, like, he could send his whole army at your relic because there's zero risk of. Then again, he is playing 160 points down at that point, so it's like
and Tom isn't up where he can affect might, so you just try and break his army. So,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, the other thing is the signal tower. Obviously, drop the signal tower on your relic.
You know what'll be annoying to try to get the objective is if you're going up against Smog and he's just sitting on top of the objective.
Just burning everything.
That'll be a fun model to move.
Because that was another one is like the Mumak. I was kind of thinking of the Mumak War Leader, and you just drive that thing straight into your opponent's camp. Like, it's kind of not a model you want to stand in the way of. But
well, and then you get the issue of, I mean, one of the things you really want to think through when you're doing this scenario is which side to pick. Because depending on which corner, because this is one where basically you pick a corner and then the other guy gets the other corner. You can pick either, you can pick any of the 4 corners. So there's going to be certain situations where the relic is going to end up either in or behind terrain. And that can give you a really big advantage, particularly if it's a Mumak. And there's a building near there that the Mumak can't move through. That's something to really think about is, how do I get my relic and his relic in the terrain, in the area of terrain where I want them to be, by picking the right corner. This is, I think, a scenario that gives a big advantage to the guy that deploys first.
If just curious, the 5-point relic objective, does it require you to be holding the relic in your deployment zone, or just the relic has to be in your deployment zone?
Okay, if you have retrieved your opponent's relic and the model is holding it in your deployment zone, you instead score 5 victory points.
Yeah.
The model is holding it.
You need to be carrying the flag in order to get the 5 points.
You need to have the flag
otherwise
in
it
yours.
reduces to 1. So that's a big note, is that if you pick this up with any model that's fragile, you could get randomly sniped and then drop your 5 points to 1 point, like right before the game. Yeah. So that's something huge. You have to be holding it. I would definitely pass this thing off. It's a light object anyway.
Yeah,
light object.
There's not I was thinking about...
which actually. Yep.
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. Go ahead.
No. I just wanted to bring back to the 2 trebuchets or any catapults or anything like that. I was just reading the siege engine. If you were to put a siege engine on top of the relic, then even when a siege engine is disabled, it stays there. So could you then potentially have a siege engine sitting on top?
Yeah,
and then
I think you can completely
to actually enter.
So here's the problem: the 6-inch deployment of the siege.
You got to move it there.
You got to move it there. Yeah, you can't start it there. But
you just have to move it there.
So that would be a good tactic to try, though, if your siege engine is big enough. Obviously, you can't do it with a bolt thrower or a stone thrower, but if you have a catapult or trebuchet, walk it right up on top of the thing. I mean, you can't fire anymore, but nothing prevents you from doing that.
Well, I mean, the other thing you could do is if you've got like big scary monster in your army, or even big tough hero, you just stand that guy. I mean,
like a cave drake or something.
Yeah, I mean, which is something to think about here. I mean, are the rules for picking up a light object, right? Because in order to pick up a light object, mounted troops can't do it unless they are expert horsemen.
Yeah.
So you're less concerned about somebody running in with random cavalry figure and grabbing this thing and moving off than you are about, or even guys on fell beasts, or even Mumacs, right? Because a Mumac can run and stand on top of your relic, but it can't pick it up and it can't move it.
Yeah.
So if a Mumac is charging straight toward your relic, you're like, okay, go stand on that relic. But if you've got cavalry, unless you've got like Rohan or Rivendell Knights, somebody's got to come up and dismount and grab that thing, and then try and hand it off to somebody else the next turn. They can't just grab it and run away with it. But if you're fighting somebody who's got like a Warbat or an Eagle or something like that, you want something kind of big and tough to stand on that relic just to prevent somebody from passing overhead, grabbing it, and keeping going.
Actually, now that you mentioned the Warbat, that is something that's actually fairly risky to grab it with. Anyone thinking about grabbing relics, light objects with flying models that can't resist magic, are strongly susceptible to being pulled right over your own army back into the enemy lines. Well, so just be careful about that.
In this scenario, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because as long as you still have it, you get 3 points, and even if you moved it, you get 1. Yeah. So if you can snatch it with a Warbat, even if you lose it later, it's still
the point.
Still better than not getting it.
I have to say, this is probably going to become one of my favorite scenarios because it's so similar to Capture the Flag, and I just love it so much.
Yeah, this is actually a really fun scenario to play.
This looks like such a fun scenario, and it creates that real dilemma when you're actually playing Capture the Flag. Where it's like, how many people go over? Well, they have a person sitting in front of it. How many people should be sent to each? You know what I mean? It's really great where it's very similar to that.
Just thought of Mick, your strategy of the siege weapon. Yeah, I think you can carry your opponent's siege weapons away. You can't fire them, but it's just a heavy object. I think you can carry them.
No, that's only if they haven't been disabled. If they have been disabled, then they just sit there.
Well, then don't disable it. You need a full turn and contact in order to do it anyway. So what you can do...
It's still a heavy object.
Yeah, and I think it's still a heavy object. I think you just carry it away.
Because I was just thinking, what happens if, let's say, you have your model there? Like, would you be able to actually jump onto the siege engine and then jump in and pick it up from there? Or are you not allowed to actually work on the siege engine? So then
I think the siege engine becomes like having a base. So I think even though it doesn't have a base, it's kind of treated as such. So you can't like hop all over it.
I think you can actually.
You think you can?
Yeah, it does not have a zone of control, so you could climb all over that siege engine
potentially. Yeah,
if you want to. Yeah.
So, but you as the enemy player before, if I'm pretty sure it still counts as a heavy object even when disabled, but let's say it's not. Then you still need a full turn with doing nothing further in order to disable it. So you can stop yourself from disabling a siege weapon just by moving it. Like it wouldn't be difficult.
Well, I think it's optional. I mean, if you don't want to disable the siege engine, I think you can't. But...
Well, let's just say it wasn't optional because I'm not sure that it is. I think it's just basically if you stand near it for a full turn, but we'd have to read the wording. But if it is optional, that solves that too.
I missed the tangent on how we got into a situation where we didn't want to disable the enemy's siege engine. But
well, so it's sort of like, just any other interaction in the game. There's certain things, the way they wrote it, it's required for you to do it in that specific way. So unfortunately, like I think it just says if an enemy model stands next to your siege weapon for a full turn doing nothing further, then
that's right.
Then it disables
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a requirement.
But it is full turn. And remember, because a lot of people forget this, nothing stops a siege engine from shooting you when you move into combat with it, as long as you haven't moved into combat with the crew. So for the siege engines that don't have minimum ranges. You could if you manage to plop that siege engine on top of the relic and it's still manned and somebody kind of moves it to the front of your siege engine, you can always just shoot him. And
the only thing that applies to is the Isengard siege ballista. All the other ones have minimum ranges.
No, doesn't does the Iron Hills one have one now?
The Iron Hills has one now, 12-inch
minimum range. The dwarf ballista does not.
Yeah, but the stone thrower is too small. It's so small that you can stand next to the stone thrower and still grab the relic. You need a bigger siege weapon.
No, you could, because the relics
the relic is the size of a 25 mil base.
Right.
Mm.
But
And
so
your
is
siege
the,
weapon, no, that thing is tiny. Like, put it
Okay,
on
no,
a
so
base.
it comes on a 25 mil base.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
you
you're
mean
not
like
supposed to
actually
have
put a
on the
base on it? Well, then
Well, no,
theoretically,
it comes with one.
Well,
The dwarf ballista comes with one.
so let's put it on the 25 mil base. That means it's the exact same size as the relic, which means standing next to it means you're also in base contact with the relic itself.
Mhm.
I could make the argument that I'm in base contact with both and therefore can pick it up.
Yeah, I guess you can. So put it a millimeter towards the enemy and you're safe.
There's going to be a lot of annoyances for tournament organizers in this scenario.
Oh, me and Matt
I'm
can
just
get
gonna
into a
drive the
full
catapult
warrior
on it.
discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. Any final thoughts before we move into the list?
Capture the flag.
Yep, capture the flag. We'll move into the first list for today. So each of us have written a list for what we think this scenario would do well. And I'll move it over to Rainier first for his list.
All right, so I was tasked with bringing a heavy shooting bow list or a shooting list for the scenario. I saw it in two different ways. I could have done the traditional castle with siege weapons and a ton of bows and just sit there, but I wanted to show that you can actually bring lists that are really bow heavy that are also mobile. So I brought Easterling Condish Alliance. Of course, it's at 800 points. I'll start out my leader is let me see if I have it real quick. Condish King on Chariot. He's leading 8 Condish horse and 2 warriors. Next comes a Condish Chieftain on Chariot. He's leading 8 Condish horse and 1 warrior. Third comes another Condish Chief on Chariot, and he's leading 4 horse. And then my last warband is a fully kitted Amdur warband. It's Amdur on horse with 2 cataphracts, 8 warriors with shields, and 5 warriors with pike and shield, 1 upgraded to a dragon guard. So right off the bat, I'm sitting at 9 might, 23 bows, 42 models, 3 chariots, all of them having 2 might each so they can route combat. And no banner for scenario points, but a 6-inch banner on the king and a 3-inch Easterling banner on Amdur. So I really like my list for this one because it looks beautiful on the board. I've been playing this army before I moved to Korea, just purely based off aesthetic looks, and I realized actually, well, dang, this thing actually can work. I think having so many Candish horsemen on bows in this scenario lets me control basically the whole battlefield. We talked earlier about how long it's going to be. To have 10-inch movements with all my horses, potentially 15 with a heroic march. I just think I can control much of the board, and each warband, or even if I spread them out like ants, each model still has the ability to shoot a bow. So yeah, I have that. I have my might distributed in my Candish chieftains, and of course, my Candish chieftains and kings also have bows too, and they can shoot if they move full because they're platform special rule. So yeah, I just think I wanted you guys can give me more advice on what you guys think, but I wanted to bring an army that was heavy shooting, which I think this is with 23 shots, but that can also work in a scenario like this. Yeah, what do you guys think?
I mean, obviously, like with your whole force is designed to plow through something and be highly mobile. I mean, I think both of those aspects favor this scenario highly. So you said he had how many chariots? You said 2?
Three.
Or
So I have
three,
two
yeah.
chieftains
And a
and
king.
1 king, and then I also have Amdur.
Plus Amdur. Yeah, so who obviously can hero combat through stuff. I mean, people tend to make way out of the way of chariots anyway. Fun fact is chariots can, Matt talked earlier about terrain. You can charge around corners and all that, and it doesn't even affect you. You can heroic combat while in like with these things, and then like suddenly get a surprise like, oh, relic's mine. Well, no, you can't because you're not an expert rider, but you can easily make, plow the way through 4 things. The fact that you have infantry, obviously important for this type of mission.
Yeah.
I missed it. Did you have a drum? You don't have a drum, right?
No, I don't have the drum.
Yeah.
Oh, but the infantry too is specific to, of course, hold the defend the relic.
That's what I was going to ask is what's your offense defense plan with this?
So the list is kind of built. The it's one phalanx line, which isn't that much to be honest, but accompanied with Amder is actually quite dangerous. The 2 cataphracts I have in the list are more to cover Amder because it'll give him defense 7 and shooting, and when they're next to each other, and it'll kind of make someone like Legolas not dehorse him so easily because then his horse goes to defense 6. The basic thing of the list you would put the pike phalanx in the middle, right above or right in front of the relic, your own relic. You wouldn't move them up that much, maybe just to like kind of get the opponent a little scared, and you just put all the horses on the flanks and literally send out Cav to Kingdom Come all the way to because the board in itself is, I played this list on a 6x4 at a tournament, and I was like, holy smokes, that extra space.
Oh, 6x4, that's enormous.
Yeah. But like this kind of thing gives it that ability to like almost 6 feet of space just to spread. And then also, if someone hits the pike phalanx, I've got chariots that can come in the flanks like this and just do a lot of damage. Of course, it's distributed too as well, so I can decide to throw a chariot chieftain with some horses to even rendezvous towards the opponent's camp to either heroic combat in, maybe dehorse a guy, grab it just to get that 1 point, or throw off the enemy.
Out of curiosity, why the Khandish king being the leader instead of Amder?
So my play style, I feel like I'm well. For the first off, it's the bulwark. So the bulwark, even if you win the fight, you're gonna have to hit a 5 or 6 just to get through the chariot to strike the king, and it's pretty hard. Defense 7 chariot with 3 wounds. So I found that it's a lot harder to wound the king. He's also defense 6 than it is for Amder. They both have 1 fate, but I don't know. It gives me that ability just to throw Amder in like a grenade. And when you don't have to worry about those points, he's a little more dangerous.
Well, remember though, in this scenario, Amder is leading the covering force. So he's going to be the guy that's back. Whereas the grenade that's going to go in is going to be the king.
See, that's not so much because Amder, of course, has a horse still. And I'd probably throw Amder with the main bulk of what's happening, if that makes sense.
So Amder's going to leave the Easterlings to guard the relic, and
yeah, I mean, it depends. If the opponent's coming straight at me, Amder and the chieftains are going to hit straight on. If the opponent's held back, Amder, of course, would go with all of the Cav, and the Cav would piecemeal to get them coming out, and then I would fight the opponent on my terms wherever it is good to fight. If that makes sense.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, it's nice. Like, you got what, 28 Cav? Plus.
Let's see. Yeah. Well, I have. Let's see. 8, 16. I think around that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're able to all of your Cav shoots as well, except the cataphracts. So yeah, you're able to essentially move wherever you want. You can always stay out of your opponent's bow range if you go on the flank somehow. You can just be picking up things. So I would imagine this would play very similarly to like a Rohan list, but on top of that you have the chariots to march things down. Yeah, so I really like it.
I think it can kind of do everything, where if you want to sit back and just kind of wait for them to come and then move around them, you can do that. And then if you want to get really aggressive with it, you can. The great thing with Cav is it basically lets you choose to do whatever you want. And then if you want to take it back, well, guess what? You can move back and take it back. So it's always a great thing. We'll move on to the next person. So I'll move that over to Mick. So what was your list, Mick? Cool.
So I have an alliance between Mordor, Moria, and some spiders from Merkut. So Derbus leading 11 goblins, 6 with shields, 5 with spears. Then Ashrak leading 10 goblins, 5 with shields, 5 with spears. Then we have the Spider Queen, Alaiden. Then from Mordor, I've got Mouth of Sauron on an armored horse, leading 15 orcs. That's 7 shields, 7 spears, and then 1 with banner and spear. Then there is Shelob, just to benefit from Ashrag's ability. And then there is a mortar war catapult with several heads, just so I can eventually drive it on top of the objective and cast it around it and not allow anybody to
Don't let it
anything
remove
with
it.
So I have, so that's 800 points. This gives me 45 models and 10 might points, out of which really Mouth of Sauron and Dervis are the ones that would be used for the army. The other Ashrag can't really do much with his might other than channel. Spider Queen needs her might, and the catapult engineer, well, not engineer, veteran needs to have his own might for shooting as well. So that the whole idea with this is essentially Ashrag can make spiders invisible. So there is there is quite a big potential of just like slotting things through, especially Spider Queen with broodlings can just potentially send them out in situations where your opponent might just randomly forget. And Spider Queen moving 10 plus deploying broodlings 3 inches away plus moving them another 10 gives you a 23-inch move. So there is always a good possibility that if your opponent isn't careful, then you can just randomly run in and snatch an objective with a broodling. Yeah, the whole plan essentially with this would be probably, obviously depending on the opponent, but probably deploy the catapult, shoot as much as you can, and then eventually pounce in and smash them if possible.
Yeah, this is a scary list.
Yeah, I don't like this. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of this.
Really balanced. Really balanced.
Yep. Yeah, with Shelob and the Spider Queen. I mean, I guess the only problem with this is if Ashrag goes down, I think the list goes down.
What's the model count again?
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't.
45.
Would you really say that? Because he only can cast that spell like 3 times anyway. So I mean,
Yeah,
the list has to function without him.
I mean, you lose the giant invisible spiders.
Yeah. Luckily,
and then-
he had options.
You just have, and then you just have giant spiders, and I mean, you still have the
Double
catapult.
giant spiders.
I mean,
that's fun.
The giant spiders combined with the dispersal from the siege weapons. I mean, how many models do you have, Mick?
45 in total.
That's
pretty good.
Pretty
Yeah,
high.
it's actually
It's pretty. That's really
That's
good.
solid.
This is a solid list, Mick.
Yeah.
Honestly.
What was the? Is it like heavy magic? What was the thing that you got? Heavy monster.
Well, so Mouth of Sauron does a bit of magic and provides Marge. Catapult obviously shoots plus has a troll just in case someone comes close. 2 monsters in Shelob and Spider Queen. Then Ashrag supporting both Shelob and Spider Queen, and then Dervis providing might and another striker just in case. The leader of this army would probably be Mouth of Sauron. Just because he is normally better.
Is
for
he a
combat
hero of
champions.
fortitude or?
He's Valor.
He's a Valor.
He's
So-
actually a unique way to ally into Mordor if you want to, like without taking some of the race and such. Because I think the normal race are fortitude, right? Or are they Valor?
Normal race are
The vanilla race?
fortitude, yeah.
Yeah, they're fortitude. So, like, yeah, I mean, you have what, 2 monsters, Shelob and Spider Queen?
Well, plus the troll in case.
Yeah, for the set catapult, which you're moving up anyway, right?
Yeah. I'm just gonna spend
No,
the next 2
it's-
turns
the,
moving
It's a
catapults.
scary list. It's a
Remember,
scary
by the
list.
way, that troll pulls the catapult at full speed.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, most speed siege weapons are going to go full speed anyway because they'll have a crew of at least 3.
Yeah.
So, but
So he's got double spider plus a troll plus a catapult. I mean, plus
the troll's
numbers.
a non-factor. Yeah, I mean, I like to discount.
He's got a troll to protect the objective.
It's
though.
the troll to protect the objective. That's what. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But when he deploys forward, realistically, he's not bringing the troll.
No, I understand that, but if someone tries to get to his thing, he's got a troll to protect it.
Well,
Yeah.
not entirely, because the troll can't move further than 6 inches away from the catapult. So
But you don't want him.
Yeah,
to
but
move.
you don't want him to
But
move.
you don't want
it can carry the catapult.
Yeah, but like in a situation where someone's coming close to the objective, for the troll to come to the objective, it's going to have to come with the catapult, and then the catapult can't shoot.
Well, you
So there
said
is-
you were
there
bringing
is
the
a bit
catapult
of-
to the relic anyway.
Right.
I mean, eventually, if I
You know,
if I
you're-
have to.
let me put this in perspective. You're not that far away from the relic. So the 15 inches from your corner means you're like 6 inches But you're probably already on top of
True.
the relic upon deployment. It's like one move. It's a hop.
Not quite, but I
I-
think it may actually be one move because you deploy 6 inches from the board edge,
Yeah.
and then
You're telling me
you
that relic's
can
not 12 inches
pull it the rest of the way.
I think it is. I think it's
Now,
less than
now
that. I
is
think you
is
can look
there
back
a is
up.
there a like a limit on how close the catapult can shoot?
12
Yeah,
inches.
it's 12 inches.
12-inch minimum
Okay,
range.
I don't know if I'd actually move it in the beginning because your opponent's
No, of
probably
course
gonna
not.
like charge you
I
right
would-
away.
Yeah, like I would eventually move it if, let's say, if I have to protect it. But
Yeah.
obviously, I'm gonna start shooting from
Yeah,
turn
yeah,
one. I'm not gonna just walk.
I'm pretty
around
sure
the
you're only
catapult.
like 10 inches from the relic. From starting turn 1, you're probably like 4 inches from that relic. So you
Something like
probably
that.
can, in one move, the catapult on top of it. So yeah, you just wait till they get
Or
close.
at least move the troll on top of it. I mean, you may actually be able to, because the troll can be 6 inches away from the catapult. The catapult can be 6 inches from the edge of the board.
So the problem is the
Yeah,
catapult
but
doesn't
in the reroll.
back away when it loses a fight. The troll does. So you putting the troll on top of the relic is not
No,
a bad.
I'm just saying you can separate. I mean, if you're going to forego the ability to re-roll stuff with the catapult, and I'm not suggesting you necessarily should, but you can have that catapult kind of deploy in a way where the troll is one move away from standing on the relic, I think.
You could, yeah.
So that, once it comes time where you need somebody to guard the flag, you can take the troll, move it away from the catapult, and have it stand on the relic, and have him be like, "Yep, okay, now you got to kill me to get the relic."
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not a lot. It's a really good list. Not a whole lot to talk about. We'll go into the next.
Obviously, defense 5 across the board and
Yeah.
no Shadow Lord is an issue, but
Is
The
a
shooting,
45.
shooting will be a little bit of an issue. Absolutely. I will move it over to Matt next. So Matt, what was your list?
All right, so I had a mobility theme here, and I decided to do something a little different. And this is something you would probably want to do if you were in a meta or in a tournament that had a lot of terrain. So I went with the Pass of the Druidan Legendary Legion. So first, I have my 2 requirements. I have Theoden King, and he is fully upgraded. And with him, he has 3 Rohan Royal Guard with throwing spears. And then I have my infantry obligation here, which is Gone, Bury, Gone with 15 Wozes. Warband number 3 is Gambling, fully kitted out, with 3 Rohan Royal Guard with throwing spears. Then I have Durnhelm with 2 Rohan Royal Guard with throwing spear. And last I have Aemir, Marshal of the Riddlemark, with 2 Riders of Rohan and 1 Rider of Rohan with throwing spear. So the advantages that come with this Legendary Legion are, of course, you get the ability to win heroic move-offs on a 3-up, but potentially more important for this scenario is you get the waypoints. So you can throw down 3 waypoints that basically nullify terrain within, I think, 6 inches of the.
It's like 12 or so.
Is it 12?
Yeah, it's so irrelevant though, because with the 3 waypoints, you can just nullify all
Yeah.
terrain you need to.
Right, exactly. So you nullify terrain. And so the theory here is that Gonbury Gone and his Wozes with their stock unseen special rule are they're the ones that are going to stand back, and they're going to basically kind of hide around my relic in a place where if you're going to shoot at them, you got to be within 6 inches of them, and basically force the enemy to come to them and soak up time. And then I think what I probably do, and this obviously depends on terrain, is I pick, I try and pick the most terrained route to the target, and I drop a waypoint there so I can run right through it or around it. And Theoden, Gambling, and Durnhelm, they're the Schwerpunkt of the army. So all of them and all their Royal Guard are going to go through and around that to try and get near the enemy's relic. And of course, I am expert horseman. So, the plan is hopefully if the guy leaves the relic unprotected, I go and I try and do basically I can heroic combat off of random guy get around the back of it, and kind of run in and grab it on the move I get after the heroic combat, and try and get that and move it. And then if I can, just get it out, because this is the army that can pick up that light object without having to dismount. And I think I take Aemir. I think Aemir goes off on kind of the opposite flank, perhaps around some terrain, perhaps not, with his riders. And he either threatens the relic from the other side, or if I need some more punch to kind of defend my own relic, he can run back and help deal with whatever is threatening my relic. So that's basically the plan. This is basically a use mobility to come at the relic from a bunch of different directions and through terrain, to use it to kind of outmaneuver my opponent to get the relic and get it off.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I mean, this is one of those. In theory, it sounds great. I mean, the best part is actually the list works even outside of the scenario.
What's the model count again?
So the model count is, I think, 31. Yeah.
How many wolves do you have?
So that's half cav, half infantry.
Yeah, I have the mandatory 15 woses.
Huh. Okay, I guess now rethinking about it that way, that's very fragile.
Yeah, no, it is fragile. It does depend on terrain and mobility, but it's got the 4 hitting heroes from Rohan along with a whole bunch of Royal Guard. So that punch is actually a pretty powerful punch. It's not something where I'm going to go head to head with a shield wall on this, but this is an army that's designed to kind of go around shield walls. And
I guess for some reason I had envisioned more models in my head. I don't know why, but 15 models. Yeah, you have 4 hard hitting heroes with Gambling Theoden, Eomer, and Durnhelm.
Yep. And it's got the might. So this is not an army where you want to go head to head with somebody's power stuff, but in a mobility scenario like this, it's basically to come in and hit whatever you're guarding the relic at from the side, get some heroic combats, get in on the thing, and then get out quickly.
Now, would you leave the Woses in the back to protect your relic, or what would you do with Oku?
The Woses stay back and protect the relic, and they can, because they've got the stalk unseen, they don't have to worry about being shot at, so they can just be around terrain somewhere in the vicinity of the relic.
I mean,
potentially even if you can get it so that the relic is in terrain, then they just kind of sit on it.
I mean, I guess in direct comparison with Mick and Rainier's list, which is unfair, but that's kind of what we're doing. I mean, you're taking a very fragile list, splitting it in half, and then you're guarding your relic, understandably with the Woses, because what else are you going to do with them? But it's not like they're actually holding back anything that's coming at them. So any aggressive force is going to force you to bring the Rohan back to help, especially if the aggressive force has a mix. So like mixed force is capable of defending and attacking with fairly strong troops, and then Rainier, I mean, the high variance of the fact that he's delivering 2 strength 4 hits to your cavalry every time he touches you. I mean, even if ignoring that, the amount of shooting could bring down your cavalry. I mean, as soon as half of your Rohirrim even get dismounted, which Royal Guard, do they have armored horses? No, I don't think so.
No, they don't have armored horses. No, I mean, so against Rainier's list, I'm basically taking my cav, putting it on one, because he's spread out, and I'm going to take most of my cav and putting it on one side or the other, and I'm going to be coming through terrain. So I can move through terrain. His chariots can't.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to do against his stuff, is I have to charge out of the terrain and into his chariots to kill them, or through terrain from one side of terrain to the other, which is the other advantage of this list that's a little deceptive, is people think, oh, I can hide in terrain or charge into terrain. You can actually charge through terrain, which the enemy can't do, which gives you the ability to charge people from positions where they can't charge you.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to do, because I can blow through one wing of his cav with my heavy stuff pretty easily. And as long as the Woses are, as long as I have enough terrain on the board, and that's why I caveated this with, this is, you want to play in a high terrain meta. as long as those wozes can kind of be in a position where you can't charge them unless you get within 6 inches of them, or you can't charge because you can't charge your chariots into terrain, they're actually kind of hard to deal with because you got to kind of go in and dig them out. And that's going to be tough for Rainier to do. Mick's got a different issue. I mean, Mick's different because he's got the spiders that can run right through the terrain. And I have to figure out how to deal with the spiders. But on the other hand, he's only got 2 spiders and he's only got 1 Ashrak. And they need to be in one place. And this may be a situation where, if I can just kind of slow down his spiders by throwing enough wozes in front of them, I can pretty much cut through whatever else he has in his army where the spiders aren't.
I mean, if I were Mick, I would send the spiders directly at your Rohirrim and just send normal junk at your Roses. I mean,
yeah, I think I can actually. So against Mick, if he does that, I think my guys kind of hold back a bit. Of course, he's got the troll catapult, so I got to disperse. But I think I can gang. If I can get those spiders out on their own, I can gang up on them and kill them. I've got enough heroic strikes in there to take him down.
So I guess
the really cool thing you have also is that even if I was to be shooting you with a catapult, like your cav can just hide inside terrain, so that's going to give you in the ways if you're under trees or if you just.
It's specifically he's got to be under something though, right? I think in order to block that fire.
If let's say there was a palm tree that sort of goes like this, then
so the GW trees would help.
Some branches would be protecting you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And remember, I'm coming at Rainier from 2 different angles, and I think that's probably what I do. So I'm coming at his relic from 2 different angles, and I've got guys that are going to be kind of hanging back who can't be shot, who are going to be hanging back protecting my relic. So Mick's got to kind of figure out how he wants to split stuff up to counter me. And wherever I'm outnumbered, I leave and I run into terrain or I just run away or something. And, whichever is the weaker of the forces is the one that I gang up on, kill, and make a run at the relic.
I think there's a slight problem you come across with both of ours, because if you run away from his, he could still shoot you with the catapult. Or his spiders have 12 inches instead of 10, right?
His spiders have
10. They're 10.
Oh, 10 still. Okay,
only flyers ever move 12.
Yeah, I'm just a little worried if you came up against my shooting army though. That
I'd be worried against both of those armies.
I've got heroic march and cav 2, so it's more so. I feel like with my shooting, I would dictate when combat would hit because I could even retreat my guys all the way to the edge.
Oh, I think your army I just charge right at. Your army I just want to get into combat.
You charge towards the middle or the flanks?
I think I go around one flank and then into the middle.
Yeah, I still see a problem because I could still.
Rainier, can you run? You can run over your own stuff, right?
Yeah, that's
you
the thing.
Literally charge through his own crap and just hit your cat.
And that's what.
Unless I can get into one of his chariots first, and I can pin. So I go in and I pin a couple guys in front of his chariot with a royal guard. He charges into his 2 guys. He may or may not kill them, and then
I think he's going after your heroes, but yeah.
Well, remember, if he moves first, then
it's not an issue.
Yeah, but if I move first, and I'm more likely than not going to because of my special rule, I can pin, depending on how he's got it, I can either pin his chariot if I can get into it, or I can pin the guys in front of the chariot with guys I don't care about.
I just think he pressures you to go first because of his superior bow fire.
Yeah.
So
I think the problem is too. I've got three chariots.
I think I always want to go first, but
it's all interesting theory.
That.
I don't know how much time we have, Tim, but
yeah, it definitely has to be played well for sure.
You also need terrain for this to work.
Yeah.
And I think that, especially if I'm deploying where there's like terrain between me and Rainier's chariots that I can run through and he can't. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that changes the game a bit.
You could even hide in the terrain too.
Yeah, I can hide in the terrain. I can run through the terrain. Yeah, if there's like a big clump of wood somewhere on the board that I can like run my cavalry into and then come out in any direction.
Yeah, that'd be extremely helpful.
Yep.
Okay. We'll move on to Devin's list next.
All right, as a final list, we actually all had different categories, and I had horde list, but I had to do a horde list that I guess didn't have any magic since I was or monsters since I was with mixed area, and then no shooting or not a shooty force because I was Rainiers. So I ruled out a lot of armies and had a very clear, obvious winner on which one would do very well in this. And so I kind of feel like I'm cheating by picking this army. So
down to Goblin Town. You were gonna say it?
Are we gonna do Goblin Town as the horde list too?
Wait a minute, Goblin. Oh, I forgot about that one. No, okay, no. Yeah, no, it's Goblin Town. I mean, it's a standard Goblin Town build. It's 104 models. It's the only variance is I have 2 mercenary squads with 10 guys each. Otherwise, everyone's kitted out with the full max, 18, 18, 18 for Grinna, the Scribe. Sorry, not Scribe. Basically, all the captain and then the king and then, the Scribe. So it's like your standard Goblin Town build. I mean, I can go over the list, but literally you just copy and paste like captains and goblins until you get all the named heroes.
Would you bring mercenaries though? That's a big question.
I did. Yeah. I brought 2 squads of mercenaries with 10 each.
Nice.
So I think they're vital in this scenario. Well, I think they're vital in general. I'm sorry.
They're vital in the list.
Yeah, they're vital in the list. And ultimately, I got 2 of them with 10 each. I actually don't like maxing them out. So, I mean, if we're going to talk about like some of the specifics of the list, I never max them out because that limits the amount of terrain they can deploy in. Mm-hmm. So I think 11 is pretty much a solid, probably the max I would go with your mercenary squads, even though you're capable of bringing up to 18. The Goblin Scribe is a godsend here because, as we discussed with Mick, when you deploy your actual models in the opposing the opposing board edge, you're actually very close to their relic. Like you automatically start off basically because you move onto the board, so you're starting off like maybe 5 inches away from it. So obviously don't do that too early because then you'll get piecemealed and break faster. But you send in. I mean, the strategy is going to be pretty standard. Ultimately, you're charging in everyone.
What was your list, by the way? I'm just curious because I took Goblin Town last week and I want to see how yours differs from mine. I got I think 92 models on mine.
All right, so actually, it's my list has to be 6 less, so it's actually not 104. It's 98. So basically, it's the Goblin King with Gollum and 23 goblins, and then Grinna with 18 goblins, and then the Scribe with 12 goblins. What I do with the Scribe is I put him up closer to the battle lines at first initially, and then just carry him back. Depending what you have. If you have a lot of shooting or something scary, then I may vary that. But then I have a captain with 18 goblins, and then I have a mercenary captain with 10 and another mercenary captain with 10.
So Matt last week actually had a really good point that about doing mercenary captain warbands where you would have, let's say, 4 in one, 6 in another one, 8 in another one, or maybe 10.
That is a good point. Yeah,
it just gives you so many more options that where you can land.
I tend not to do that only because you have to roll to bring them in, and I kind of don't want to. Like, I want to be where I want to be. Like, so I just try to make sure all my warbands are strong enough to be able to hold a flank or something, and yet still deploy anywhere I want. I don't want it to be where like, oh, I have one that has 12, one that has 6, and I'm like, well, crap, I need to hold him back, but now I have 7 guys to do it with. So I think Matt's idea is a good idea in the sense that like he has more like options. I guess he can get in even really small, tight terrain like on Osgiliath Ruins, which isn't going to fit my 11 goblins reasonably. So I think it's a good idea. I don't think I picked that strategy, but I don't think that's a bad idea. So I think that's just the build of mine. And honestly, I don't play Goblin Town. I just view it as just Lord of the Rings on easy mode. It's a very annoying list. So, I mean, the Goblin King, realistically, the only way this doesn't work is if you don't know how to operate Gollum and the Goblin King appropriately to take out like specific targets. But outside of that, as long as you don't make blundered mistakes like deploying your captains way isolated so they get totally murdered, or deploying Scribe goblins so that way Matt can just, or anybody, Mick, Rainier, whoever I'm playing against, can just pick them apart and be like, oh, you're closer to your break limit now because I'm just killing these guys. As long as you deploy them correctly and bring them in the right way, this is an incredibly difficult list to stop.
Particularly in this scenario.
Yeah, especially in this scenario.
This is the second of the two scenarios, I think, where like Goblin Town wins it hands down.
Yeah, and this is the reason, like, maybe in future podcasts, and you guys can all tell us in the comment section below, like, okay, without Goblin Town, because Goblin Town wins a majority of the scenarios. This game is built for Goblin Town to destroy most everything in the game. And it's actually amazing that Goblin Town is just now catching on after Articon of last year, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, it is one of the most absurd lists in the game, easily. But
Legion bonus, not Legion, the army bonus really pushes it over.
Not as much as you might think. Actually, as crazy as it sounds, you only get 7 to 9 goblins extra. That's it. It's not that much. A lot of people,
Golem, I think it's something that pushes them over, because the one weakness it has is it can't handle big heroes, and Golem negates that for like 35 points. So it's like the one weakness is.
There's a couple things that push it over, and it's. I don't think any one thing pushes it over.
It's a lot of
different things that push it over.
Yeah. But it's not the army bonus. The army bonus is practically worthless. Honestly, I know that sounds very weird, but like, do the math. Yeah. Make a list at 800 points, 700 points. Doesn't matter.
Because captains are cheap.
Yeah. You're only getting like 7 to 9. Like, it's not much.
It allows you to take, obviously the Goblin King with 24, Greta with 18, but really what it does is it makes it so that your heroes aren't minor heroes who can take 6, and then they can go to normal war bands. That's all it really does. That's the main purpose of it, is that Goblin captains can then.
The Scribe really is it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you could abandon the army bonus. 2 players who won first and third in Articon with Goblin Town both say the army bonus is totally irrelevant. The only reason that one of the players didn't ally was simply because it weakens the list to do so. You're reducing numbers and your armies, it goes down like crazy. So, other than bringing the Spider Queen in or something kind of absurd like that, like, there isn't much point to allying, and you just fill out the army.
You just fill out the army. So the Goblin Town issues are, one, Golem, which I don't think, on its own is a huge overtipping issue. Its ability, it's got 2 things that allow it to basically bring guys on anywhere, and that's the Scribe and the Mercenaries, and that's a huge advantage. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing is that its figures are probably undercosted by at least half a point, and because they're really cheap,
the half point adds up.
The half point adds up. Yeah, so they're half point undercosted. So what? Yeah, but you've got 90 of them.
Also, Hurl is another reason the list is doing better, because Hurl used to be, double Hurl in multiple different directions to maximize casualties. Right. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's the same problem. It's the same problem in reverse as the Hobbits, right? Because the Hobbits are about a half point overcosted, and that's really what's kind of taking them out. It's kind of unfortunate, because this is one of the issues of like the lower point models is, if you've got cavalry that's like 1 point overcosted, so it really should be 18 points rather than 19 points. It's like, well, so what? But once you get down to the lower point models, that misallocation of points really gets kind of blown up in significance.
And just so anyone who's doing the math, because I want to clarify this one thing, in my list, I actually gave the Scribe 18 models, but I actually, literally, as I was reading it, I was like, oh, he should have 12. So I subtracted 6 just in my head. So if anyone's actually doing the math on my list, you're probably going to notice that I'm like 6 times 4 goblins back in points. So just add a captain or something.
Doesn't matter. You're still going to win.
Yeah. So.
Just to finish up on this, my biggest issue with Goblin Town is that, and this might seem like a minor one in comparison, because obviously, you guys, you've mentioned the big ones, which is Golem or all the, but I don't like with Goblin Town how Chittering Horde makes sense. But the fact that both the front rank and the back rank could, in theory, piercing strike, so then they both get strength 4.
The back can't. No, the back can't piercing strike. You can only piercing strike if you're in close combat. If you're operating as spear support, you are counted as wielding a spear, so you can't use an axe.
Oh, maybe I misunderstood the rule. Then.
Yeah, you can't piercing strike with the back.
Oh.
But I mean, lest this becomes a review of Goblin Town.
Yeah.
I will go ahead and. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious how you win this kind of scenario with this army. It excels in this kind of scenario where your objective is so close to a board edge, probably going to be close to terrain, and then you have to get through 104 plus, or 98, but add a captain, whatever amount of models you have to get through is absurd. Even if you get past them, my scribe can start bringing in models in the back. My mercenaries can deploy in the back. I mean, it's like I have mobility for days to bog you down, and it's just a war of attrition at that point. So
yeah, I almost wonder if you're playing against these. So let's talk very briefly about how you play against this list. I actually wonder if you play against this list, you just castle on your relic and you play for the draw.
I probably would play for the draw. I mean, it's weird.
I'd castle, then try to just break them.
I have done this type of mission where, I'm trying to think of, because I've played 3 rounds in a tournament, like actual competitive events against Jacob Hall, whom obviously always plays Goblin Town now. And I've beaten him every single time, but actually playing the objective very, very safely. And I think I would do the same thing here, is just try to break his force and play extremely safely. Like I'm trying to think of how I can only remember the Seize the Prize one in Rainier's, which is I had a Spider Queen. So I ended up blocking him off from getting to the objective first. I got to it first. And then I just held ground there. Honestly, if you gave me 3 more turns, I would have died because just too many models. You just can't handle that many combats. And so, yeah, you play safely, but you're going to have to burn your turns out somehow without slow play. But that's
Agmar's a really good counter to Goblin Town, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is actually.
But you have to play Agmar in a castle mode. You can't be like Agmar and let me hit him in different flanks and attack and play the scenario game. No, just castle, play for the draw or play for the break, and hope you can maybe get the win.
I've actually played Angmar against a Goblin Town list like this, where basically I just fought everything in a ring. I basically was deployed in a ring with shades and not shades, but
Barrow Whites.
Barrow Whites, kind of running around the inside wherever I needed the terror to be. I mean, one interesting thing you can do on that is, this is just an interesting Goblin Town thing is, so we all know the whole, you charge the front line of a shield wall. It takes away the zone of control. There's still a guy in the back, so there's still a zone of control lurking back there. If you deploy in kind of like this V formation where everybody is you're instead of your spearmen being directly behind the guy in front, but if you're fighting in a ring and your spearmen are essentially like 45 degrees off the front, so it looks like this V that kind of goes around in a circle.
If you start playing like that, you're going to get someone calling you out for unsportsmanship.
Well, I think against Goblin Town, you got to do that because what it does is it prevents the goblins from getting more than one guy on your front line. You can basically deploy in an arc and it prevents him from ganging up on your front line.
Yeah.
Because he's got to kill the guy in front before he can get into that back line.
You're definitely talking about playing that time game, which is like what I was suggesting earlier is like if you can burn out the clock, you can prevent the attrition, the slow death and crumble of your army. So that would be a good way to do it, is you're limiting how many models he's actually able to kill in a single turn. So
well, you also get more advantageous fights because it ends up being, your 2 fight 3 guys against his 2 fight 2 guys. And, if you get a banner near there, you can win a lot more of those fights. Where you really tend to go down against Goblin Town is where you start to break up your formation. He starts to get like 4-on-1 or 4-on-2, and then you go down. It's a way to prevent that.
Every scenario should require a banner. Problem solved. No, but all right, I guess that's it for this one. That's
then they're going to change the rules so that the Goblin King is a banner.
Yeah.
he counts as a battlefield-wide banner.
The scribe
that's
is a
right.
banner now.
Either way, you still have to kill 50 goblins to even break them. And how many models did we have in our armies?
Yeah, you had like 50 models at max. Like,
Yeah.
45.
Yeah,
is
like
the
I had
one.
45, Matt had like 31, Rainier had 30 something, and
Yeah.
42, 42, yeah.
Yeah.
Rainier probably has the best chance of actually ripping through the army, depending on his roles.
yeah.
All right. Well,
That's right.
Thank you for tuning into this week. Let us know if you agree with our lists and our opinions on the scenario, and let us know if you're excited to play that scenario, if you've already played it, how you've done with it. Leave us any comment section about any ideas you'd like us to discuss or any lists that you'd like for us to review. And we look forward to seeing you next week.